"Dude, this is a private event. Get lost." A drunk guy was screaming through my fence, with a flashlight pointed straight into my backyard, while Bess shook my kid's bedroom windows, the so-called private lot. The HOA had just bought it 2 months ago, and now they were running full-blown parties behind my house. You know, when we bought this place, the whole point was peace and quiet. It wasn't about fancy upgrades or some dream house out of a magazine. We just wanted a spot where the kids could grow up without hearing sirens and traffic every night. Lisa and I both grew up in the city. After our second kid was born, we were done with apartment walls so thin you could hear your neighbor sneezing. We saved for 4 years before we could finally afford something out here, an older house with a big yard backed up to a patch of woods. And that stretch of land behind us, it was wild and overgrown, but that's what we loved about it. No traffic, no people hanging around, just trees, birds, sometimes a deer wandering through. On weekends, I'd take Jake and Emma out there to explore. We'd build little forts out of fallen branches, spot fox tracks after a rain. That patch of woods became our own little adventure zone. Now here's the thing, we're not part of the HOA, never have been. Our lot sits just outside their boundary line, county property, totally separate. I've got my own well, my own septic, no dues, no board breathing down my neck. And I knew the HOA folks could get a little uptight about lawn height and mailbox colors, but we'd never had issues. A couple of them even came by for a barbecue once. Then last year, this new HOA president, Marcy starts making moves. Word gets around that the HOA wants to buy the empty lot behind us. Some talk about improving community spaces and creating value for all homeowners. I figured they'd maybe put in a picnic area, maybe a garden. No one came to ask us, why would they, right? We're not in the HOA. A few months later, the for sale sign disappears. Then the construction crews show up. They clear the brush, level the ground, pour a concrete slab. New lights go up on tall poles, not your average park lights either, big commercial floodlights. That's when the rumors start flying. Turns out community event space was just a cute name. What they were really doing was setting up a full-on party venue, renting it out for weddings, corporate events, even outside groups with no connection to the neighborhood. And that patch of woods where my kids used to build forts? Gone. Now it was a slab of concrete with a stage and speakers, aimed right at our backyard. First time they used that lot, they didn't even bother giving anyone a heads up. It was a Friday evening. We'd had one of those perfect small-town days. Jake had a soccer game, Emma had a play date, Lisa and I had finally gotten some yard work done. Dinner was burgers on the grill, kids chasing each other around the lawn. Sun went down and we all settled inside. Kids with their books, Lisa with her knitting, and me trying to catch a game on TV. Then this low thump started shaking the living room windows. At first, I figured it was someone driving by with a subwoofer. But it didn't fade. It got louder. And then there was this pulse, like standing next to a damn concert stage. I muted the TV, walked out onto the porch, and damn near dropped my beer. That lot behind us, where my kids used to climb trees, was lit up like the Vegas Strip. Spotlights pointed straight up into the sky. A full DJ rig blasting some kind of club music, and the cars, they just kept rolling in. Not a few cars either. I counted maybe 20, 30 of them by the time it was full dark. SUVs, pickups, sedans, packed tight along the road, some jammed right up against our fence. One guy even tried to back halfway onto my yard to squeeze in. I stepped out and waved him off. He rolled down the window and grinned. "Bro, they told us to park wherever. It's cool." Then he revved the engine and pulled off into the ditch. Lisa came out onto the porch with this look. You know the one. Not scared yet, just pissed. "What the hell is this?" she asked. I didn't have an answer. That bass kept pounding. Emma came out crying. The lights were flashing through her window like a strobe. Jake looked scared stiff. I grabbed my phone and called the non-emergency line, figured I'd at least get a noise complaint logged. Half an hour later, a cruiser pulled up. I recognized the guy, Officer Rick Caldwell. Older guy, local, always seemed level-headed. I walked over as he was getting out. "Officer, I got kids trying to sleep through that," I said, pointing behind the house. He nodded, walked off to talk to Marcy. I stood there watching. She met him halfway up the drive, glass of wine in hand, all smiles. They talked for maybe 5 minutes, lot of nodding, lot of laughing. Then Rick came back toward me. "It's a sanctioned community event, sir. HOA's got it permitted. Nothing I can do about the volume." "That's not a community event, it's a goddamn rave." He gave this little shrug. "One night, best to let it go." And with that, he got back in his cruiser and drove off. Lisa stood next to me, arms crossed tight. "Ben, they're gonna do this again. You know they are." She was right. It wasn't just one night, not by a long shot. Next weekend, boom, another event. This time a wedding celebration, according to the banner they hung across the lot entrance. Real classy, fold-out tables, neon lights, and a rented portable bar. And again, no notice, no courtesy call. Just cars lining the road, headlights sweeping across our living room, strangers parking so close to our fence it felt like they were trying to drive into the yard. Lisa was livid. I mean, you spend years building a home, raising kids, thinking you've finally carved out a little piece for your family. And suddenly you've got a damn party venue in your backyard. By the third weekend, it got worse. Some corporate event, a local car dealership from what I heard later. This one started early, went all day and half the night. Kids couldn't nap, couldn't do homework. Every time I looked out, there were groups of people smoking right up against our fence line. And that bass? Non-stop. Windows rattling, cabinets vibrating. It wasn't long before the real problem started. One night, Jake comes running into the living room, scared out of his mind. "Daddy, there's a man in the yard." I grabbed the flashlight, ran outside. Sure enough, some drunk guy was stumbling through our side yard trying to find his car. Took me a good 5 minutes to talk him back toward the road. I called the cops again. Guess who showed up? Rick Caldwell. Same deal. He wandered over to Marcy first. Came back with his tired look. "They're doing their best to manage parking, sir. It's not a crime if someone wanders off." Not a crime? My kid was scared stiff. I want this logged, officially. He sighed, pulled out his pad, jotted something down. No real action, though, just words. That same night, someone clipped our mailbox pulling out of the ditch. Found it the next morning. Bent post, box crushed. No note, of course. Lisa was ready to call a lawyer. "Ben, this is getting dangerous. Next time it won't be a mailbox, it'll be one of the kids." And she was right. But here's the kicker. When I tried to reason with Marcy directly, I walked over during one of the setups. Middle of the day, sun blazing, guys hauling in speakers. I caught her near the stage, clipboard in hand, barking orders. "Marcy, this is getting out of control. You've got strangers in my yard, lights blasting through my house, and now my mailbox is wrecked. You need to shut this down." She didn't even blink, just gave me this smug little smile. "You live outside the HOA, Mr. Rivers. We're well within our rights. If you don't like it, maybe you should move." That was the moment I knew. This wasn't going to stop on its own. After that conversation with Marcy, I knew going toe-to-toe with her wasn't going to do squat. The woman lived to flex her little badge and throw HOA jargon at anyone who challenged her. So I tried the reasonable route. First thing I did was call the county zoning office, spoke with a guy named Dale, real helpful at first. I explained what was going on, all the noise, the parking, the lights. Dale pulled up the file. Looks like it's zoned for community recreation. HOA claimed it's being used for non-commercial neighborhood events. I nearly laughed. Non-commercial? They're renting it out to outside businesses. I got a dealership throwing parties back there. Dale sounded uneasy. "Well, if they're charging fees to non-members, that's a different story, but I'd need proof, sir." "Proof. Of course. Next call. The health department. Told them about the porta potties, the outdoor catering, the garbage I'd seen piling up after each event. Same answer. "We'll send an inspector when we can, but unless there's an active food service violation, we can't just shut them down." Meanwhile, Lisa and I started documenting everything. I set up one of my old work cameras on the back porch, caught footage of cars flooding in, bartenders serving drinks, full DJ rigs. Lisa kept a log. Dates, times, type of event, how late the music went. We took photos of parking chaos, video of drunk guests stumbling out at midnight. Next weekend, I tried one more time with the cops. Another big event, this time some private birthday bash. Cars double parked, people blasting music from their own car speakers in between DJ sets. Called 911 this time, not the non-emergency line. Figured maybe that'd get more attention. Dispatcher told me they'd send someone. Half an hour later, guess who rolls up? Rick Caldwell. He got out, looking annoyed before I even spoke. "Rick, this is out of control. You can't tell me this is still just a community event. I've got video, I've got logs, you've got to do something." He shook his head. "Ben, I get it, but look, unless they violate specific laws, there's not much I can do. They have a permit, they filed everything through proper channels." I stared at him. "So they can blast my kids out of their beds every damn weekend, and all you're going to do is shrug?" He looked uncomfortable. "Look, off the record, I'd take this up with the county. I'm stuck here." "Yeah, stuck? Sure, more like friendly with Marcy and not wanting to rock the boat." By this point, the stress was eating us alive. Emma started having trouble sleeping. Every Friday she'd ask, "Are they doing another party tonight?" Lisa was at her wit's end. "Ben, we can't live like this. Either we fight this thing or we start thinking about moving." Hearing her say that, that's what finally snapped me out of trying to play nice. I wasn't about to let some HOA president drive us out of the home we built. I was one bad night away from losing it. Another weekend was coming up, and flyers started popping up on social media. Outdoor DJ night, open bar, $50 cover. $50 a head, public event, no HOA mention anywhere. That's when I knew for sure Marcy wasn't just bending the rules, she was running a straight-up business off that lot. I showed the post to Lisa. This is it, I'm done asking nicely. But here's where things got interesting. See, my next-door neighbor is an older guy named Phil, retired city planner, the kind of guy who knows zoning code inside and out. He's got a shed full of old blueprints, permits, all that stuff. Keeps to himself mostly, but he'd been watching this whole circus unfold right alongside us. That night, I walked over to vent. Told him about the $50 cover, the noise, the drunk drivers. Phil listened, nodded, then said something that stopped me cold. You know, I was on the planning board when that lot was transferred. I don't think they're even allowed to do half this crap. He disappeared into his garage and came back with an old binder, thick, dusty, full of legal printouts. Flipped to one section, pointed at a highlighted clause. Property use limited to non-commercial, recreational purposes for HOA members and guests. No public events, no third-party rentals. Phil leaned back, looking real serious. If they're selling tickets, renting it out, that's a violation, plain and simple, could void their permit, might even trigger fines. I stared at that page like it was gold, but it got better. Phil grinned. Oh, and here's the fun part. Any violation of that use clause, it requires the HOA board to disclose it to the county within 30 days, or the board becomes personally liable. Personal liability. I could already picture Marcy's smug little smile cracking. But there was more. Phil had heard rumors. Seems a couple of HOA board members weren't thrilled with Marcy's little side hustle. One of them had supposedly threatened to resign. And the cherry on top. Turns out, Officer Rick Caldwell had been getting donations from the HOA's community fund. A few hundred here and there for his kids' sports league, community outreach, that kind of thing. All logged in the HOA's own newsletter. Lisa and I dug through past issues online. There it was in black and white. Thanks to Officer Rick Caldwell for supporting our safe events. Suddenly, Rick's reluctance to shut anything down made a whole lot more sense. That night, sitting at the kitchen table with Lisa and Phil's binder, I stopped being mad. I started thinking strategy. By the time I finished reading that binder, I knew exactly what needed to happen. Lisa sat across from me, arms folded. So what now? You think they'll just fold if we wave this in their face? I shook my head. Marcy's not the folding type. We need to do this right. Paper trail, official complaints, and we need to hit her where it hurts. First move, legal. I called up a buddy of mine, Tom Greer, real estate attorney. We used to work jobs together back when I wired new builds for him. Tom owed me a favor. I told him what was going on, sent him photos, videos, Phil's documents. He called back the next day, excited. Ben, this is a slam dunk. They're in clear violation of their own zoning restrictions. And if they've been collecting money, that's commercial use. No gray area. Next move, gathering proof. Lisa and I started pulling everything we could find. Screenshots of the ticket sales online. Videos of the bartenders and cash boxes. Flyers advertising open to the public. Noise level recordings with decibel readings from our yard. I also set up a second camera, this one angled at the lot entrance. Captured every car pulling in, every cash transaction happening at the gate. Meanwhile, Phil reached out to one of his old contacts on the county planning board, quiet-like, gave them a heads up that an official complaint was coming and that they'd better be ready to take it seriously. And the kicker? I sent an anonymous tip to a local investigative reporter, young woman named Jenna, who'd done pieces before on shady HOA practices. Sent her everything, the videos, the flyers, the financial tie-ins with Rick Caldwell. She was all over it. This is exactly the kind of story our readers eat up. Keep the evidence coming. I'll have questions for you soon. But we weren't done. Tom helped me draft an official demand letter, citing the exact zoning clauses, the personal liability clause, and the county disclosure requirement they'd already blown past. We addressed it to Marcy and every member of the HOA board. Certified mail, return receipt requested. No way they could claim they didn't see it. At the bottom, one polite little line. Failure to comply within 14 days will result in legal action and referral to county enforcement. Now here's the part that made me smile. We copied the entire board of county supervisors, the county zoning enforcement office, and the local paper's editorial board. No more backroom deals, no more we're outside the HOA. They wanted to play dirty? Fine, I'd play loud. And if Marcy thought she was untouchable, she was about to learn otherwise. Once that demand letter went out, it was game on. First sign things were moving, A full HOA board meeting was scheduled. Urgent community matters. Lisa spotted the notice on their website. Phil chuckled when I showed him. They're scrambling. Good. Meanwhile, Jenna, the reporter, called me up. Ben, this is bigger than I thought. I dug into the HOA's financial reports. There's no record of those event fees going through proper channels. Someone's pocketing cash. Oh, Marcy, you greedy little idiot. That weekend, I kept the cameras rolling. Another private event hit the lot. Live band, booze, full dance floor. And this time, county zoning inspectors showed up mid-party. I stood in the backyard watching through the fence as two guys in county vests walked the perimeter, taking photos, jotting notes. The party shut down fast after that. Guests started filtering out. Music stopped cold. Next morning, boom! Email from the county zoning office confirming they'd opened an official investigation. But I wasn't done. Jenna published her first article. Local HOA accused of illegal party rentals, zoning violations, county investigation underway. Front page of the community section. Neighbors started talking, fast. My phone lit up with texts. I had no idea they weren't allowed to do this. We thought this was for residents only. Then the real punch landed. Tom filed a formal complaint with the county attorney's office. Not just zoning violations, but personal liability claims against the board for failing to disclose commercial use. Now the board members themselves were on the hook, not just the HOA as an entity. Marcy? She doubled down, sent out this laughable email blast to all HOA members. We are being unfairly targeted by a small group of disgruntled neighbors. Disgruntled my ass. I sent a second batch of footage to Jenna, this time including a shot of a man handing a wad of cash to Marcy at the lot entrance. A week later, her second article dropped. HOA president caught on video collecting cash at unpermitted events. Police and county launch joint investigation. That one hit like a bomb. And just when it couldn't get worse for Marcy, Phil's contact on the planning board leaked a little nugget. Turns out Marcy never filed the permit renewals for the event space. Technically, the lot wasn't even supposed to be used at all. Now it was zoning violations, illegal operation of a business on restricted land, and possible tax evasion. And Officer Rick? His name got dragged right into Jenna's reporting. Every donation traced, every appearance he'd made at HOA-sponsored safe events. County police launched an internal review. Rick got pulled off patrol duty pending investigation. The next HOA board meeting, packed to the walls. Marcy walked in looking like she hadn't slept in a week. No clipboard this time, no smug smile. And the best part, Tom and I showed up too, invited guests, courtesy of a few board members who wanted no part of this mess anymore. Tom stood up, clear and calm. You have 14 days to cease all commercial use of this property. You will disclose all prior violations to the county, and if you do not, we will file suit and pursue damages individually against each board member. Dead silence. Lisa squeezed my hand under the table. For the first time in weeks, I felt like we were winning. 2 days after that board meeting, the lid really blew off. Jenna dropped her third article, and this one was a nuke. HOA president under investigation for illegal business practices. Zoning board moves to shut down unauthorized events. Front page, full-color photo of Marcy on the lot, caught mid-smile, cash in hand. And the best part? That photo came from my camera. After that, whole neighborhood turned on her. Fast. People started flooding HOA emails and message boards. Why weren't we told? Are my dues paying for this mess? Who authorized this? By the end of the week, the county sent an official cease and desist letter. No more events, no rentals, no community gatherings with paid tickets. Next HOA meeting, standing room only. Lisa and I sat near the back. Didn't need front row seats to watch this implosion. Marcy tried to open with her usual charm. We've always acted in the best interests of this community. Didn't get 2 sentences in before half the room erupted. You lied to us. We want to vote, now. You cost us thousands in legal fees. One board member, guy named Jerry, nice enough, stood up shaking. I hereby motion to remove Marcy Donovan from her position as HOA president, effective immediately. Cheers, actual cheers. The vote wasn't even close, nearly unanimous. Marcy sat there frozen, pale, like she was watching her whole world collapse. And it got worse. Turns out the county's investigation had uncovered more than zoning issues. Tax records showed that Marcy had pocketed most of the event proceeds, never reported. Fraud, tax evasion, potential wire fraud. By the next morning, the police made it official. Press release, investigation underway into allegations of illegal business operation and financial misconduct by HOA official. And Officer Rick? removed from active duty, pending further investigation into improper relationships with the HOA. When I read that headline, I poured myself a drink and sat on the porch. For the first time in months, it was quiet. No bass, no screaming drunk guests, no floodlights in the trees, just my backyard, my fence, my family safe and sound inside. A couple weeks after that last HOA meeting, things finally settled. County crews came out and stripped the lot bare. No stage, no lights, no speakers, just dirt and silence. Marcy? Well, she wasn't around to see it. Word got out she'd lawyered up and was facing multiple charges: tax evasion, fraud, operating without permits. Last I heard, her house was up for sale. Officer Rick? Still suspended. His name's not exactly welcome at the department anymore. As for us, we got our peace back. One night not long after, I was out on the porch. Cool breeze, stars overhead, nothing but crickets in the air. Lisa brought out 2 mugs of coffee, sat beside me. The kids were finally asleep, no earplugs, no noise machines, just real, honest quiet. She smiled. You think it's really over? I sipped my coffee, looked out at the empty lot. For us? Yeah, for Marcy. She's just getting started, with the county attorney. We both laughed. And you know what? The best part wasn't the win, it was watching our kids play in the yard again. No more fear, no more flashing lights. Sometimes standing your ground means late nights and long fights. But this time, it was worth every damn minute.